Okay, hi. How are you?
Hi,
Are you regular have you been to Resurrection before?
I'm
And I
from the
just
Philippines.
haven't met you yet?
Yeah, can you hear me fine? Is
Yes.
my Yeah, I'm Xerxes and I'm from the Philippines. I just saw your webinar on Facebook and then I want
Perfect.
to and interested to learn. Oh
Okay,
yeah.
great. So I'm gonna turn my video off so that I have more bandwidth. And then that way uh I can see you guys and talk to you guys without getting interrupted. So I'm gonna share my screen, and if you are okay, I'm gonna get started now. So here I'm sharing my screen, and this is this book, and I'm using Canva, which is not PowerPoint. So I have just the single slides here that I'm going to be talking about. Um, so this book is something that I didn't go find on my own. It was recommended to me by Reverend Troy, and I thought, what could there totally be in this book that I don't know? Because I've been doing social media since social media became a thing. And so when I read it, it really was in the context of having a discipleship and applying it to growing a church. And so it's very, very relevant to our everyday, um, what we need to do to continue to grow our church and sustain. So, um, everybody here, Xerxes, welcome. Not sure if you've ever been to one of our services or not, but we do stream online on Sundays at 11 Central Standard Time. But we are a church of love and action. And my intention with this course was to give us the ability to grow and to reach people globally. And so when we recently had our Dreaming Forward meetings, we had some planning meetings that the congregation was invited to, and it was to look ahead at what resurrection can do better, and what's it doing now that it's doing good, and what can it do to do better. So my strong feelings about the sessions itself were, I wanted to be sure we had a virtual option because we have almost 50 virtual streaming congregants each week on Sunday with us. So Sandy is our online moderator each Sunday, and we're so grateful to have her helping us do that because I'm just one person, and I can't be in all places at all things. So it's great when I have help, and that's another reason why I'm doing this, because there are going to be opportunities to make things virtual, and I want to make sure everybody's comfortable with the concept of doing virtual things. So today we're going to talk about the first few things in the book itself. I'm going to talk about myself. My name is Suzette, and most of you know me from church. Maybe you don't know that I started a job in internet technology back in 1997. That was when dial up was still a thing. And I went to work for an internet service provider in the Woodlands, and they were one of the very first internet services providers, like AOL, and there's just Yahoo was a service provider, AOL. I'm trying to think of the different ones that there are now. But back then they were all on dial-up. So the technology advanced and everybody on dial-up went to um, a, a circuit line. So we changed from dial-up to going to bigger circuit lines that had more capabilities. So I was kind of a geek in that sense of I knew the technology. And then fast forward to 2013, I started internet social media company called Innovate Social Media. And at the time, social media was just starting to really be something, and I really didn't know what I was going to do with it. I had a marketing degree um, and a background in internet technology. So I was able to marry marketing with internet technology. And now I just help small business owners and churches, our church, Resurrection, uh, get their messaging online and make people aware of who they are and how they can talk to them, and what they can do to stay relevant with the technology. And that's super important because things are moving really, really fast today, super fast. Every time I get on Facebook, there's something new. So, and then I've also been a member of MCC since 2003, so almost 20 years. Um, so it's been a labor of love for me to be a part of this church and to learn the different things that the internal workings of the church. I've been a Sunday school teacher for 7 years. I've been a lay delegate. I did lots of different little volunteer things. The drag bingo we just had, I've done that. So it's just been a great and amazing journey for me. And I want the opportunity and I want to take advantage of the ability of using the amplification of social media to put our church out there. I call companies have a way of calling themselves brands. So if I slip in the brand word, it's just basically the church or an organization or a company is all represented by a brand. It's what you are online. So when I was researching to do this presentation, I learned that there are 350,000 registered churches in the United States, and 2 out of 3 churches in the United States are plateaued or declining in attendance. So that kind of um, struck a chord with me because COVID happened starting in 2019. We didn't have church, in-person church. We had to scramble to get everything online, and we did it. Mark Eggleston and the church clergy and all of the volunteers that made that happen. It was just really an amazing effort, and we didn't have any precedent. So getting us online was a huge and major undertaking. Um, I also learned that most churches have fewer than 100 people in attendance each week. And so I'm going to mute uh, so that we can, or if you guys can mute yourselves, that would be awesome. Taylor, anybody that's not muted, if you could mute yourself. Okay. So most churches have fewer than 100 people in attendance, and that sounds like not very many people, especially for our larger churches. Most churches have fewer than 100 in attendance each week. Resurrection has right around 200. We had more than that before COVID, and we're slowly growing our numbers back. But wouldn't it be great if we could do more with the same weekly service that we put on and share that with even more people? So churches like Lakewood and these mega churches that you see, they are not the norm. Most of our churches are small, growing, plateaued, losing members. And so that's why this particular topic is so relevant right now. So the vision, I can say it's my vision, but it's the vision that I think is shared by everybody that came to the Dreaming Forward. Everybody wants to create a new way for our church to grow our membership online and in person, and we can do that with the power of digital. So digital media and marketing together, marketing is just another word for um, getting the word out, or you know putting your messaging out there so others can see and hear it. The mission for me is to create an online church space that's open and welcoming to anybody that's seeking a closer walk with God, and welcoming an inclusive church home, not just on Sunday morning within four walls. So we want to meet people where they are. So, yes, meeting in person is wonderful, and it is, to me, it's very important, but there are tons and tons of people that don't live in a place where there's an inclusive church. So there's another person, Carol Kiesling. She's going to be part of this ministry team, this online ministry team. She lives in Santa Fe, and they don't have an MCC in her area. So she's been attending the resurrection churches services virtually through our streaming church services on Sundays. So that's how I met Carol, and she's going to be a part of what we are doing here online, but she couldn't be here tonight. She had a meeting. Um, okay, so if you have a copy of the book and you read it, there's a lot of talk about, how did the early church get started? And by looking at Jesus as an example, in his day, the only way that they were able to do things is if they went from town to town, and shared their experiences, and shared, what the teachings of Jesus are, through verbal communication. So Jesus didn't just stay in one place and say, okay, we're just going to be here in this town, and people from everywhere are going to just have to come find me. He went out into the different places all over, walked miles and miles and miles with his apostles, and spread the word of love, and what it meant to be Christian, and love God. And how the early church got started was in this way. So um, we get to see the power of different ways of communicating. So and then we want to talk about who our prospective churchgoers are. In this book, they gave the example of, they did a survey of who has no church or no religious affiliation, and they came back with the majority of the millennials and the Gen Zers are the ones that are saying that they don't have a religious affiliation, or a church that they call their church home. So something's going on here that we need to pay attention to. And in our Dreaming Forward meetings, that was the whole thing, or not the whole thing, but that was one of the main topics, was how do we attract a younger audience? How do we attract those people who are unchurched, who have no religion, and get messages to them so that they find us and have the opportunity to engage with us. So, and the numbers are dropping, and that's not a good thing. So we're kind of at a crossroads in this day and time, about not just about our own church, but as Christians who are seeking to be disciples and share the love of Christ and what that means and how it works. So the term millennials is anybody between the ages of 23 to 38 years old. So I am not a millennial. Taylor's a millennial. And, basically, what is it that we can do to find these individuals and where are they hanging out? Anybody that was born after 2019 is a Gen Zer. So I think I just went backwards. Sorry. Okay. And so the next question that this was asked is, why are you not going to church? Or why are you not looking online for a church? Or why are you not looking online for religion? And specifically, millennials are saying that basically religion isn't relevant to them. And what exactly does that mean? Relevant in what way? And that's what we need to find out, is what are people looking for? What are the younger generations looking for when they look online for a spirituality or a religion or something to give their life purpose? And I did a little bit of our own um, demographics. We have our own social media channels, and we have Facebook and Instagram. We have Twitter. Um, I'm not sure. I don't think we have a TikTok that's public, but um, our main channels are Facebook and Instagram. So on Facebook, we have 7,419 followers, and Instagram, we have 528 followers. And I'm put a box around the age and gender of who makes up those numbers. And you can see that those millennials are a big part of that online presence. So a lot of the people that find us online are the people that are online. So we want to make sure that we're there and that people can find us. So what does relevance mean? What are people looking for when they search online? And I'm going backwards again. Sorry, guys. Okay. So no one is going online really and looking for um a streaming church service. They're going online looking for something else that is missing in their life. And so we get the opportunity to maybe catch some of those people through our streaming services. So I started working with Resurrection about a year ago in August, and um, our numbers were low. Um, we were just in the process of coming back from COVID. We had lowish attendance of in-person worship. So actually, this worship number includes the 22 streaming, so it's even lower than this. The 165, 166 minus the 22 that were on the streaming, YouTube and Facebook. Um, YouTube and Facebook are a place where if you've never done a streaming service before, I think everybody here has done a streaming service before, but what the platforms allow us to do is have a church service that we simulcast online by using a streaming service. So, and it's not something that is easy to do. It takes a lot of preparation, it takes a lot of coordination, and it takes a lot of technical talent to put together a streaming church service. So we can talk more about that in a little bit. Fast forward to today, our membership or our worship service attendance is up. we've had up to 50 people streaming online, which is double what we had, or more than double when I first started here. And that is basically, you know, doing it consistently over time and making sure that we advertise it and, create events on Facebook so that people know that the streaming services are available. um, and you can see that the weekly attendance has gone up. So, and the reason why I kept the tithes and authoring offerings and giving information up here is because that's relevant too. When you have less people coming to church, you have less contributions to the offering plate. And there's not a church out here that can operate without income. So it's really important for us to make sure that we take in enough income to meet our budgetary needs and to make sure that we're serving the the people of our church in the ways we plan to serve them with what we do in the budget each year. So there's usually a giving variance, and it's usually a falling short variance until the end of the year. And then some people will have a tendency to give extra at the end of the year, but you can see that it's tied, it correlates to the number of people that we have in worship. Okay, here's somebody. Okay. All right. And I don't know where I went. Can you guys still hear me? I let somebody in and I don't know where.
Yes, you can.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
we can. And that was
All right. Thank you. All right. So we learned from COVID a lot about ourselves. And I was one of those people that went to church every Sunday on the streaming services. And my partner, Christy, is in the gospel ensemble choir. She plays piano. So we had to have our house set up so that we could participate online each week. At first, we were recording the services and making them available for playback. And then we learned how to do the streaming part. We can come back to church and do the live stream. So we learned a lot over the time that we were forced to adjust and learn and do new things with technology because our hand was forced with COVID not allowing us to be in person. But just like we have a lot of people who are leaving the office, it was called the Great Resignation in 2020. A lot of people left their jobs because they realized that they didn't have to be tied to a desk like a ball and chain. And maybe there was something out there that was more appealing for them. And so a lot of people quit their jobs and decided to start companies or freelance, or there's just a lot of things that happened as a result of COVID, with how we do things today. Food delivery. I mean, it's just a whole different world than it was 3 years ago. And church as well is no longer a place. We have to know that we have limitations when it comes to requiring people to come to a building to attend church. And so that is why I put together this series, because I think it's really important that even though you may not want to be part of the actual technology piece of it, you could still participate. I don't know of very many people that have not participated in a Zoom yet. And if they haven't, then we need to make sure that they know how to do that. So, whatever it takes is what we need to do to get people to join us where they are. And we want to meet them where they are and no longer require them to come to us. So I just like to put numbers and charts and graphs inside of a presentation because it just solidifies for us that there is proof that things are happening and online, and it has to do with the age of people. So the younger people that we want to attract to come to our church spend the most time online. So if we're not findable, and if we're not relevant to them, and if we're not available to them when they're available, then we're going to miss out. We're not going to have the opportunities that we should have to grow as a church and grow as a congregation and open ourselves up to different thinking and the uniqueness of the world in which we live, different countries, different cultures, different everything, adds to the wonderfulness of who we are as a church community. I can't wait to see what we can do with having an online presence that's bigger than it is now. So some of us, if you're my age, and I'm not going to reveal that, but my birthday is this coming week, and I'm another decade older. And when I first started using the internet, the search engine was Yahoo. There might have been something else, but I don't remember what it was before Yahoo. But back in the day, everybody had a Yahoo email address, and then all of a sudden, here comes Google. So Google came out of the woodwork, and they started offering a lot of functionality for free. So they had spreadsheets, they had Google Docs, they had meeting capabilities, they had all these things that people wanted to have access to. And so everybody hopped over from Yahoo to Google. Well, now 92% of all internet traffic goes through the Google search engine. And that's just something that, we have to pay attention to that. We want to make sure that whatever we do is search engine optimized for presence on Google and the other search engines, but we want to make sure that Google can find us and Google can search our website pages, and Google knows, what kind of church we are, so it can show our church to the right people who are looking for it. So 30,000 people a month search for online church or church online. And that's something that I paid attention to. So as part of what we're doing in our strategy is we're starting an online church community. And I have invited probably all of you that's on the call right now. Xerxes, if you're not on our group yet, I will invite you. So anybody that comes to this webinar, I will make sure they get an invitation to the online community. The online community is not going to be live to the public until January. And the reason for that is because I wanted to get stuff there. I wanted to make sure that we could have some robustness to the actual group itself. So we needed members, and we need to make sure that we have content there that people can look at, instead of, you get there and you don't see anything. So I want to make sure that we have some people there and some things of interest, and make sure all of our digital assets are all connected to that group. So part of, once again, having an online presence means that we're not going to just be available on Sunday between 11 and 12:15. And we do a good job of offering virtual things, but we need to do better. We need to have more. We need to have things at different times. As we grow, we'll be able to do that. Right now, we might have limitations based on who's available to do these courses or who's available, but I have ideas that I want to implement and make sure that we get to grow as a church. So it's going to be very interesting, I think. I want to invite people from our community, not just people that go to our church, but people, allies and friends of the LGBTQ community, to take part and do some things with our church, lifestyle courses, financial help courses, whatever it is that we can offer to our congregants and visitors that makes sense to them. And that's part of that relevance. We want to do more than just have people find us online. And we want to have more than just have people find us online and listen to a church service. So a passive audience is pretty much like what you would find in a TV broadcast audience. There's no two-way communication with television. That's why there's so much potential for social media, because people can actually talk to each other. And I want to say hi to Ricky because he came on. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And I'm going to say hi to Ricky in the chat. So has anybody here been to the ASL classes that we have had online here? I'm gonna put my video back on and say hi to Ricky. Say hi. So I'm gonna say hi.
It's a good picture of him.
Yeah. So I just want him to know that I'm gonna be put this on YouTube with the
Caption.
captions. Sorry, man, I lost myself there for a minute. Okay, so I just want him to know that that's going to happen. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And okay. So once again, the way that we're going to attract people is to give them the opportunity to ask questions and to speak to us and to, have this opportunity for discovery. The way Jesus did it back in his time is he made, here I am, I'm going to sit on a rock and I'm going to invite you to talk to me. I'm going to talk to you. We're going to have a conversation. That's how it should be. We should never be just projecting from a pulpit or projecting, without the ability to have interaction and feedback. It's really important that people feel like what they think and how they feel matters. Thank you. I didn't know how to do that. Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Okay, well, you'll have to show me how to do that. I appreciate it so much. Okay. So we talked about the 100 people or less churches, and just because those churches are small doesn't mean that you can go to those churches and feel welcomed. A lot of people will visit a small church and still feel like no one has said hi to them, or they aren't part of a group. So they have that I'm invisible feeling. Not everybody's a social butterfly like me. I come to church and, I flit around and I say hi to people, and, I make sure that, I feel like I'm doing my part to welcome people. And, not everybody is social in that way. So we want to make sure that that same feeling happens to the people that come to us online. And that's why Sandy's so important, because I wasn't able to be online every Sunday because there's other things that I do, in addition to the live streaming service, slides with Taylor, and all the things that are going on Sunday that happens with the church service. I can't always be online, and I'm so grateful to have Sandy there every Sunday. She's faithful, and people love her and recognize her, and the more the merrier. We don't want to, it would be great to have a rotation for something like that. That way we could have somebody on Facebook and somebody on YouTube and vice versa. There's different people with their feelings of comfortableness with technology. And the more we do these things, the more comfortable people are going to get with that technology, and they're going to make it easier for them to participate. So that's my goal, is to make sure that I help facilitate whatever it is that people need to take part in the online piece of our church. So when we talk about relevance, we talk about what are people looking for. We offer a lot of different things in our church. We have Al-Anon, we have Toastmasters, we have a drum circle, we have, just the choirs, we have all kinds of things, different classes, in person and online. And the only way people are going to know about those things is if we tell them and we make it available on a broader scale, to make sure that people know about resurrection and what we do and who our people are and what we stand for. And so that's my job, is to make sure that I'm getting out the information that people need and are looking for. We've had the empty chair for people who are missing somebody in their lives that maybe passed away, and they're coming up on the holidays and they don't have that person anymore. So we're addressing that. Depression and suicidal thoughts. There's people looking out there they're hungry um, for for community. They're hungry for spirituality. They're hungry for answers to their questions. They want to know. They've never been introduced to Christianity. They don't know what it's about. They don't know what a MCC church is. I think we have such an opportunity to enlarge the circle, as Reverend Denise likes to say. Reverend Denise is really extremely conscious of making sure we draw the circle wide, and include everybody, and make sure we're speaking inclusively and thinking inclusively. All of those things matter. And there are people out there that just don't know we exist. And, we take the opportunity during Pride to have a float in a parade. And, this is a visual for me, but the float goes through the parade, and everybody that's at the parade can see We have signs on our float that say Resurrection MCC, and everybody's waving and throwing beads and we're having a good time. But what about all those people who didn't get to make it to the Pride Parade? We're not reaching out to anybody else if they're not there. And by creating a bigger online presence, we can have the sky's the limit when it comes to giving people what they're looking for, giving people what they want, giving people what they need. And that's my mission. I'm not clergy, but I am a Christian. I've been a member of our church for 20 years. The church matters to me. What happens to the church matters to me. What happens to the people of the church matters to me. So I'm taking this opportunity to share my skill set with you and hope that maybe something I say or something I do is meaningful to you and strikes a chord, and maybe we can work together and create this bigger resurrection, a global resurrection. I don't want to say, oh, let's be Lakewood. We could totally be that. We could totally be bigger than Lakewood. I see that. I don't want anyone to think I have visions of grandeur, but I certainly do feel like we can share the love of Christ with everyone. And if you were at bingo this weekend, drag bingo, you saw other things, opportunities where we can educate our neighbors and the community, the religious community that doesn't understand the LGBTQ community, that thinks that we're doing something wrong. We can have conversations with them. Right now, they see things from a perspective of us and them. There's no back and forth in a civilized manner in a way to educate people. And that's the best way to win people over, is to have conversations and engagement and hear each other, and make sure that those people feel like what they say matters, and teach them that we're not a threat. We're not a threat to their children. We're not a threat to anyone. There are threats all over the place. It doesn't start with, the LGBT community. It's a perspective. So to me, the relevance starts with what we can offer to people who are hungry and searching for something that's missing in their life. Give them hope, give them a community to go to, give them a connection with somebody. There's a connection for you out there. Just like if you were looking for a long-term relationship and you got on match.com, you're out there looking for that right, perfect situation to where you can have a long-term relationship with people. And that's what we're all about. That's what Jesus was all about. And that's where we are headed. I feel that dream. Okay. So I kind of just went through this, what is discipleship, but discipleship is not a building or a place. And that's where we need to step up, and it needs to be inclusive of people who maybe aren't in the 50 or so people that do everything in our church. We have a core group of people that have been going to the church, some for a little while, but most of them have been lifelong members of the MCC church, and are here and love this church and love the denomination because of what it stands for, because there's a place for them in our church. So we just need to make sure that people know who we're about, what we're about, where they can find us, who they can talk to. And yes, it's a bigger than me thing, but we'll get there. We will figure a way out to do this. And the biggest thing that we can communicate with prospective church goers, I don't even want to say members, because we have a lot of people that come to Resurrection who actually aren't members yet, but they still make donations, they still give of their time, they still join the choir, they still do these things, and we do everything in a spirit of love. And I think that as long as we have love in our hearts, and as long as we can take that love with us and show it like a beacon through the technology of the internet, that it's just going to be something that we can't contain. So I know that all of you know what that means, and all of you know that that's the core of who we are as a church. So when I was reading through the book, there was this paragraph, and it really kind of solidifies what social media or what internet technology can do for us. And it really just is a binding factor. Yes, it can also tear people down and tear people apart. But if we take it as a mission to bind, then that's where we'll find good things. And there's good and bad everywhere. We can't see things as all or nothing or one way or the other way. This is a tool that we have at our disposal. And if we see it as bad, then it'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy. We can see it as good. We can use it for good. We can keep things going. And the more we do it, the more strength we'll have as a church, as a denomination, as a people, as a country, as a global population. It's going to happen. So a lot of people, when I first started my company in 2013, I called it Innovate Social Media. And I haven't changed the name of it, even though I feel like it's so much more than just social media. It's engagement. It's all the things that social media can do. But the biggest thing about social media is that it allows us to build relationships. Back when the internet first came out, there was such a thing as these chat rooms that people would go into. And I was one of those crazy people that found a chat room for LGBTQ people, and I lived in it. So I would, like, as soon as I got home from work, I would run up to my computer and turn it on and get in these chat rooms, and Taylor would play his Mario Kart or whatever it was he was doing. And I would get in these chat rooms and talk to people who were like me, and who, it was a lot of discovery back in those days. And now you can find a chat room or a group on anything under the sun in any particular subject. And that's why having a group on social media is so important. Resurrection has I'll go over that here in just a bit. Like, I'll show you the different ways or the different social media types, but there's a difference between a nonprofit organization page, which is what we have now, and a group page. Group pages are easier for people to share on their social media and easier for them to engage in. And we can do things like have different subgroups within the group. So this is why this particular class is being taught, so that everyone can know how those groups work and why they're different, and what we can do to optimize the use of online groups. Okay. So this is a projection of where things are going. And in 2016, I need to get this out of the way. It won't leave. Oops, sorry. Anyway, I went ahead of myself. When they started taking statistics of who has a smartphone, back in 2016, it was 3.6 billion people had a smartphone, something that could connect to the internet. Now, as we go forward, you can see that by 2027, almost the whole world is going to have a smartphone. Right now, we have 8 billion people in the world. So by 2027, there's going to be almost as many smartphone devices as people. And we're talking about people in rural places or in countries that, you know, maybe you or I have never visited before. So there's still so much more that's going to happen using smartphones that we don't even know is going to happen. So it's an exciting time. And if we do it right, we can use it for good. And I thought this was funny because I read the statistic about there's 8 billion people in the world with a smartphone and only 6.5 or 3.5 billion own a toothbrush. So you can see where people's priorities are. People want to be connected. They don't care about their teeth. No, people want to be connected with the rest of the world. They want to know what's happening out there. I had connected with a missionary church in Uganda who was trying to become part of the metropolitan community churches, and work with them for a year. And, you know, I was on my smartphone, and my connection in Uganda was on his smartphone, and we communicated, we raised money, we did, you know, projects together. And none of that would have happened if he didn't have a smartphone and he didn't have an internet connection. So places like Uganda, places like India, places like Bangladesh, I can talk to people in Saudi Arabia. It is an amazing, you know, we do have language barriers, but we're going to figure out ways to overcome that as well. So having the ability to communicate with these smartphones is going to be the key to enlarging the circle. And I went backwards again. Sorry, y'all. Okay. So the big thing about social media and internet is that people have a really super short attention span, and most people have an attention span, like a goldfish has an attention span of 8 seconds. And people have an attention span of less than 8 seconds. Usually it's 3 to 5 seconds now. So if they flip to your website or your social media, and within a few seconds they don't see something that's attractive to them, they're going to go somewhere else. So we have to focus on quality, not just quantity of what we offer online. We want to make sure that what we put out there is good and has substance and answers those questions that people are looking for answers to. And then once we have people in our community, how do we keep them engaged? So that's the same as having a physical building church service. how do we sustain this? How do we keep people coming back? That is an intentional effort. It's not something that just happens by mistake, or it just happens by happenstance. We have to really work at it. And I know everybody here has the ability to do something where you can create a community or create relationships and work to retain those relationships. So that's the goal of what we're going to be doing together. And with this attract and hook and retain is we want to make sure that we keep people in our little ecosystem of social media and digital assets. So basically, we want to find ways to connect with new prospects. So we want to find ways to put some content in front of them, either a video or something that they can read or a meme or something that connects with those people and gives them some kind of a feeling of connection. So that's the biggest thing, is we have to find ways to connect with people. And then we have to find ways to increase how we connect with people. So having one channel is not enough. Having one way of doing something is not enough. We have to diversify what we do in order to increase the exposure of what we do. So we have to be always thinking of new ways to find those places where our people are, and find those places where we're gonna have the biggest bang for our buck. So are we gonna go somewhere where we know that, I mean, the hope would be, to get into a group of people who maybe don't understand the LGBTQ community, or what we're about and how we operate, and then we get into that group and maybe make some convert some people over into understanding. But it would be even better initially to find a place where more people that were more open to coming and visiting with us and connecting with us are hanging out. So that's the goal, is to find other groups, to find other places on the internet where people like us hang out and want to find other people like us. And then we want to take that visibility and we want to drive it. So once we get them into our social media ecosystem and our digital marketing, we want to give them something of substance. We want to give them an experience that they can feel something good about. And then we want to stay in touch with them. Most of you should be subscribed to our mobilizer. Every week we have a weekly email blast that goes out that says, what happened at the church this past week, a message from Reverend Troy, what's coming up in the calendar for this next coming week or the month. All the things that have meaning and opportunity for connection are in that weekly mobilizer. And then from those mobilizers, we have meetings and virtual stuff and ways for people to engage with us. So as long as we keep that circle going of experience and engagement, people are going to stick around and they're going to tell people about us. So that's what we want. We want to make sure. Okay. So how do people find resurrection right now? And you can turn your mics on, but how did you find resurrection for the first time? What did you do, or who did you ask? Or in my instance, we didn't have the internet much when I was looking for an LGBTQ church. So it was more along the lines of driving to Montrose and kind of getting a feel for what was going on in the city, and maybe going to a bar, and it was very happenstance. It was not like, how do I do this? Or maybe going and picking up an outsmart. That would have been one way to do it. But now there's tons of different ways for people to find us. And that would be with social media. We're on social media. We have a Facebook and Instagram and a Twitter account. So we are on all of those channels. Live stream and Zoom. So the live stream services go on YouTube, and YouTube is the second largest search engine, second to Google, because it's owned by Google. But a lot of people, when they're looking for something, will look on YouTube for what they're looking for. And it's just like having a search engine. So the fact that we have a robust YouTube channel, and it's our largest, fastest growing channel right now, is our YouTube channel, is what we need to do more of. So we want to do more of what's working. We want to make sure search engines can find us. So one thing I did this year was Taylor and I redid the website. Resurrection had a probably 10-year-old website that was extremely neglected. Technology had passed it by 5 years ago. It was hard to find on the internet. It just was not doing its job. So a year ago, we started redoing the website, and I think it was about 6 months ago, we put it online. And so now we have a way for people to find us on the search engines, and connect with us. There's a way for people to connect with our social media. There's a way for people to find our YouTube videos that we put out, and our live streaming. We have some blogs. I'm looking to have more people help me write blogs so that we can, have more to talk about, other than what I think is important. So we would have lots of different things for people to engage with or to discover us with. So search engines are just driven by content. So what a search engine can read on our website is what they know as who we are. So if we don't say it on our website, or we don't say it in a blog that's on our website, then nobody knows that it happened, or nobody knows about it, or nobody knows where about that. So it's really important. That's like the most crucial thing that we can do to be found, is to have organic searchability on the search engines. Another thing we do is we have outreach through classes and events. So our classes and events are well attended. We have virtual classes on Wednesdays. Sometimes they're in person. Just about every night of the week, there's something going on at the church. So it's more than a Sunday church service, but we can still do more. So, and I want to try to make sure that just about everything we do has a hybrid aspect, where people that are in person can also join online. So we can have an online and in-person interaction. And that's a goal. And then people, the biggest proponent of how people find Resurrection is through word of mouth. Even social media is a powerful tool, because it gives you the ability to share. So I have almost 4,500 connections on my Facebook. So whenever I share something on my personal Facebook page, 4,500 people have the opportunity to see it. the same thing happens when you share something that you see on our page that gets posted on a resurrection or the website. So you have the ability to share what's happening at resurrection. And nobody does that because they probably don't even know that how important that is. There's something called an algorithm, and it's what Facebook and the social media channels use to diagnose, the popularity of a post. If something's getting a lot of likes, comments, and shares, then Facebook is going to promote that, and it's going to put it at the top of its shared content. The same thing with Google. If you have a lot of positive reviews on Google, Google's going to share your business with people because it knows that you're a trusted resource. So a lot of things happen behind the scenes on social media and on the internet. There's also print media. So we also do things like outsmart ads, and whenever possible, share a blog or whatever it is we can to share content. So print media, while it is not the leading way of sharing content anymore, is still important. It's generational. A lot of people who don't spend a lot of time on the internet maybe are still picking up Outsmart magazines when they're leaving church. So the fact that we're visible in that particular magazine creates relevance for people. That may be a way for people to discuss. So I'm almost at the end here, and it was a lot of me chatting. But I think next time I would like to have more interaction with, I'll have presentation materials, but I want to do more hands-on stuff. So this was kind of more or less an introduction of the why. Why do we need to do this? Why is it so important? It's hugely important. Ooh, that sounded like somebody that I know that I don't want to sound like. It's hugely important that we have social media as part of our outreach. And it is important because it allows us to connect to people and to connect one another and to foster a sense of community through conversation and engagement. If you're able to talk to somebody, whether it's in a video chat or an online conversation in a chat room or in a group, then we're going to win. We're going to win having more of the things that we want as a church, a congregation, and a people when it comes to enlarging our circle at Resurrection. So did I put anyone to sleep yet? That's the end of today, but did that make sense to you? Do you have questions?
Yeah.
There's so much that we're going to go over. The next time we meet is going to be more along the lines of what exactly the social media pieces are, and what they look like on the front end and what they look like on the back end. And this is all just big picture stuff right now. I don't need you to be a social media genius. I don't need you to be
Good.
an expert at writing content. I just need somebody, nobody that talks to somebody online is really paying attention to, how the sentence structure of their grammar is, that kind of thing. It's more along the lines of, have you made a connection with them? Can they feel warmth and love from you? I think here's Carol. And what are we doing to make what we do available to everybody? And so I'm kind of marching that with that drum by myself right now, but I'm so excited to have you guys even just listen to me because I think it's important if we're going to attract those younger millennials and Gen Zers, and we want to create opportunity to grow as disciples. This is how it has to happen. So, Carol, say hi.
Yes.
We have our friend from New Mexico, I think maybe him.
Sorry. Hello. Sorry, my meeting got over early and I was just
Trying to get on.
hello.
Okay, so Carol is going to be part of our online community, and she is in the process of going through getting, is it ordained?
Yes.
Okay, so Carol knew Reverend Vicki Gibbs, and they were going through the ordination process at the same time. And part of what you do to get ordained is you have to start a ministry of some kind. And so Carol reached out to me a little while back when this was like marinating in my head, and was like, what can I do? How can I get involved? And then we started talking about, what can we do to have a symbiotic relationship where it benefits you, it benefits us, and we add to the ability that we have to communicate even more with more people. So she's over in Santa Fe, so maybe she knows some people in Santa Fe that might want to come join us online in our church services and streaming and all the other things. So we talked to Reverend Troy, and Reverend Troy agreed to do the checklist with Carol to help her get through her ordination process. So we will have her joining us when she can. She has a full-time job, and she's a gynecologist, OB-GYN, and travels in a rural area doing that good work. And so she is going to be joining us as much as possible. And so I see Sandy. Thank you also for joining us from Costa Rica. I'm not sure if she's frozen. She looks frozen. But anyway,
She's not frozen.
So how?
We're not frozen.
Okay. So I think that's good for tonight, and I hope to see you next time. We're not going to do one next week because it's Thanksgiving, but the week afterwards. And I may send some things that like we have an activity to do rather than just listen to me yak. And that will probably help stimulate a little bit more. What can I do? How can I make a contribution? What is this online church thing going to look like? So anyway, thank you for coming tonight. I'm going to turn the recording off in case anybody wants to just chit chat.